Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3HR Advisors and sponsored by WorkHuman. Thanks for joining me for your quick update on what's important in the world of work. My name is Steve Boese. Today in the Workplace Minute, we're going to talk about something that for HR leaders and business leaders should feel both familiar and also deeply unsettling. Familiar because it involves the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC. That's the agency that for 60 years has been the primary federal guardian for civil rights in the workplace. And it's unsettling because under the current Donald Trump administration, the EEOC is signaling a sharp and very public departure from how it has traditionally interpreted and enforced those laws. Let's break it down. Back in December, the EEOC's new leader, Commissioner Andrea Lucas, posted a video on social media that raised eyebrows across the HR and legal communities. In the video, the commissioner openly solicited complaints from white men who believe they've been discriminated against at work due to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Let's pause and think about that for a moment. The federal agency historically responsible for investigating sexual harassment, racial discrimination, disability discrimination, pregnancy discrimination, age discrimination, and retaliation for all those things is now publicly encouraging white male workers to file complaints because they feel they've been disadvantaged by DE&I. That's not a subtle shift. That's an important philosophical change, a pivot. To understand why this matters so much, we have to remember what the EEOC was traditionally created for, what it's traditionally done, and why it exists in the first place. So the EEOC was born out of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Its mission was to address the very real, very systemic discrimination that women, Black Americans, people of color, people with disabilities, older workers, and other underrepresented groups always faced in hiring, pay, promotion, and treatment at work. And for decades, the overwhelmingly majority of cases and complaints investigated by the EEOC have come from those populations. Things like sexual harassment complaints, race-based discrimination, disability accommodation failures, pregnancy discrimination, and retaliation for speaking up at work. These aren't hypothetical issues. They were then and still are daily lived experiences for millions of workers. Today, still, women only earn about 85 cents for every dollar a man earns in a comparable role. And for women of color, that gap's even wider. Men, and particularly white men, continue to dominate CEO roles, C-suites, and corporate boards, despite representing only a fraction of the overall population. And at the same time, women now earn the majority of bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, and are on pace to outpace men in doctoral degrees as well. The pipeline of education and qualifications are shifting, but the power structures in workplaces have been far slower to change. So when the EEOC begins centering its public attention on white men as potential victims of systemic discrimination, it ignores a mountain of historical evidence and current data about who is actually the most vulnerable in the workplace. And for HR leaders, this creates a dangerous and a confusing moment. Because what the EEOC appears to be signaling is not just a change in tone, but a change in enforcement priorities. A shift from protecting historically marginalized workers to scrutinizing and perhaps challenging corporate D&I efforts themselves. And that has enormous complications. If you're an HR leader trying to build fair hiring practice, establish equitable pay systems, inclusive leadership programs, or improve your representation, you may now be wondering, could these efforts and programs be interpreted as discrimination? Could my organization be investigated for trying to correct decades of imbalance? And that uncertainty is exactly the point. This moment threatens to chill D&I progress, not through any new laws, but through fear, ambiguity, and political signaling. And it tells organizations, be careful. Don't go too far. Don't be too explicit about equity. Don't try too hard to correct historical imbalances. Meanwhile, the reality of work for women, for people of color, disabled workers, LGBTQ+ workers, and others didn't suddenly become more equal or fair. Harassment complaints don't vanish. Pay gaps aren't closing. Representation gaps at senior levels have not been solved. Formerly incarcerated workers are still struggling to even get an interview. Disabled workers are still fighting for basic accommodations. In other words, the underlying problems the EEOC was created to address are still very much with us. So what does that mean for you as an HR or business leader? First, it means you can't outsource your values to Washington. You can't rely on the EEOC or any administration for that matter to define what fairness looks like inside your organization. That's up to you. Second, you must become even more rigorous and data-driven about your DE&I efforts. If you're pursuing equity, you need clear documentation, clear rationale, and clear alignment with business outcomes. You need pay equity audits. You need structured and defensible hiring processes, transparent criteria for promotions. You need to document your inclusion practices, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you may just have to defend why you are doing something right. Third, you might need to reframe DE&I internally. This isn't about favoring one group over another. It's about building workplaces that work for everyone. That includes white men, but it also includes women. It includes people of color. It includes disabled workers. It includes caregivers. It includes people returning from incarceration. It includes older workers. It includes everyone. DE&I done correctly is not exclusionary. It's equitable and inclusive. And you need to be able to articulate that clearly to your employees and potentially to regulators. Fourth, you must not back down or retreat. This is the moment when organizations will be tempted to quietly pull back, to stop talking about equity, to stop measuring representation, to stop investing in inclusion, and to hope this political moment just passes. But retreating doesn't make your workplace more fair. It makes you and others more silent. And finally, you should be having open conversations with your workforce about all of this. Employees are watching. Women especially are watching. Underrepresented groups are watching. They see what's happening at the federal level. They see what signals are sent. And they're wondering whether you, their employer, still stands for fairness and opportunity. Your actions, and not just your statements, will answer that question. The EEOC may be changing its posture, but your organization does not have to if you're willing to lean into the hard work that's required. Because in the end, the goal has never been about compliance alone. The goal has always been to create workplaces where talent, effort, and contribution matter more than gender, race, background, disability, or identity. And that goal is still worth pursuing now more than ever. Thanks so much for listening today, and a big thank you to WorkHuman for supporting the Workplace Minute. If this episode made you think about how your organization can continue to stand up for everyone in your workplace, please share it with a colleague. I'm Steve Boese, and this has been the Workplace Minute from H3 HR Advisors.